The other day, my wife came into my office and she showed me this ad from what you and I would know as a guru, and it was for drop shipping. And he was selling the world in this program. And she was like, hey, I'm doing real estate. I like what you do with the online stuff, and I really wanted to try and get into it. I really want to try drop shipping. So this video is my response to her. Sorry, honey, I love you, but I'm gonna evaluate the drop shipping model. We're gonna talk about if drop shipping is a viable business, if it's something that you should push into, especially if you just want to get started in the internet space, start making money from home, start your own business. Drop shipping is out there all over the internet. So I want to break it down as somebody with 15 plus years experience building, selling, managing my own 8-figure online businesses, including 2 that I own and operate right now. Let's get into drop shipping and let's talk about if this is a viable business option for you to jump into. So first and foremost, let's define what drop shipping is. So drop shipping is a business model in which the online retailer, which would be you in this instance, you set up your own website, you're selling a product or products to customers without holding any inventory at all. So instead of purchasing and storing products like an e-commerce would, if you're selling mouses, for example, or cups, you got to buy them in bulk, 5,000 of them, store them, and then the orders come in, you pack them, you ship them, you sell them. With drop shipping, none of that exists. You're basically selling somebody else's product on your website. You just collect the money, you pay them for the product, if you will, and then they handle the shipping, they handle all that type of stuff. So you're basically a pass-through. You're basically a marketing front. You're basically a marketing website that sells a product on behalf of somebody else. So in terms of how this works, if you were to set up your own drop shipping business, the first thing that you'd have to do is you have to set up your own online store. So Shopify is probably the first one that comes to mind. That was a big part of the pitch that the guy gave my wife. You set up a Shopify store, WooCommerce, you can even do some of this stuff on platforms like Amazon. But essentially what you do is you build an e-commerce website without any inventory. You just plug it into the back end of the distributor, the wholesaler that you're working with, and people come to your website, they make an order, and then it pushes to the wholesaler or the drop shipping product that you're selling, and then they handle the packing, the shipping, customer service, everything around that order. And then again, until basically from the time that the product is ordered to the time the product is delivered, the company that you're working with, the dropper, is going to handle all that stuff. You are literally just a website on top of it. So let's talk about some of the key benefits of drop shipping and why I think the drop shipping model is so enticing, especially to beginners, and what might entice you to want to get into this business model. So some of the key benefits here are low initial investment. Since there's no need to purchase or store inventory, the startup costs are much lower than compared to traditional e-commerce. I've run my own e-commerce stores, actually sold one. I started a shoelace business. So this is one of my first online businesses. I started a shoelace business, got it to like $25,000 a month in revenue, and ended up selling it for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons why I wanted to sell it was because the management of the inventory was such a headache. I had boxes and boxes and boxes of shoelaces in my condo, and my girlfriend, now wife at that time, it drove her nuts because I would actually have to have an assistant come in and pack it and ship it, and she was constantly coming in and out of our space. It was a nightmare, and I wasn't really making enough money to put it into a warehouse. I could have put it with like a co-packer, somebody that would then pack and ship it, but that took a really good chunk out of the margin of what we were selling. Margins were already low in that business. Management of inventory is something, if you do a traditional e-commerce business, that people don't talk about. It's a headache, it's a pain. You're either doing it yourself or you're paying somebody else to do it for you. With drop shipping, you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. You literally just pass through the shipping, the packing to the person who owns and holds the products, and they do that for you. And on top of that, you don't have to pay for that inventory either, because not just the storage of that is expensive, but the buying of that inventory is expensive too. Like, you would have to literally buy that inventory, a lot of it up front, especially if you want to get economies of scale pricing. I used to have to buy thousands and thousands and thousands of shoelaces to get them to a price point per unit that would allow me to be profitable selling them online. So you have to buy a lot. At that time, I had to spend like $15,000 on shoelaces, and at that time, that was a lot of money for me, and it was a big investment into something that I didn't really know if it was going to work. So drop shipping reduces that, since there's no initial investment. On top of that, there's no inventory management. I just kind of alluded to that before. You don't have to deal with stock, storage, shipping, logistics. Also, the inventory management on your website, managing inventory manually in terms of having an appropriate count of the product that you have and then keeping it up to date on the website is a whole nother thing that if you're doing it yourself, when it comes to e-commerce, you don't have to deal with that when it comes to inventory management. So you can also get a wide product range. So because you don't have to own the product, you're essentially pulling from a catalog, if you will, or inventory of a brand that's already established, and you can work with multiple different drop shippers too. It doesn't have to be one drop shipper. You could work with multiple different brands, multiple products. If you just connect those different backends to your website, you can basically sell a bunch of different products. You can build a pretty big online retail store by doing that without having to deal with any of the traditional headaches that come with product companies. So the scalability of it as well, when it comes to the fulfillment, you don't have to deal with it. It's much easier to scale the logistics side of this business. Like I said, when you're getting this drop shipping, but I know you're getting those e-commerce gurus out there telling you to start an e-commerce store as well. What they're not telling you about is how much of a headache and a pain in the ass it is. People look at online e-commerce business and they're like, yeah, I always want to start my own clothing brand, or I always wanted to start a boutique or something, so I'm just going to do it for e-commerce instead. A lot of the same headaches exist that a traditional storefront would, except you just don't have to pay for the storefront. But also with the benefit of a storefront is you get foot traffic coming in, you get signage that people can see you get local markers that people can come into your store. E-commerce, you're out on an island, you have to market it really hard, and you're still dealing with all the inventory. It's still a physical business, you're just selling it through an online store, but e-commerce is very much so, it's still a physical business, but drop shipping is not, it's completely drop shipping. Another thing that I really like about drop shipping is that from a beginner's point of view, it puts you on the right path. I started off by kind of picking on drop shipping a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm never gonna pick on anybody who's doing something. If you're doing something, even if it's the wrong thing, you're still doing something, and that to me makes it the right thing. So I look at things like MLM, I look at things like Monet and brands like that. They're scams. I mean, let's just call them what they are. They're scams. They're pyramid schemes, they're scams. But I still applaud you for taking the initiative to do something, because most people just sit on their ass and do nothing, but you're actually doing something. If you're watching this video, you're doing something. I applaud you for taking a step in the right direction. Now, whether it's gonna work out or not, there's other factors that we'll talk about. I'll give you my decision at the end of this video to really give you my insight on it. But at the end of the day, I do like that drop shipping puts you in a position where it's forcing you to take those steps forward. If you wanna build anything in this life, it starts by taking a step forward, and then another one, and another one. Just keep walking that path, put your head down, and a year from now, you're in a much different place. Dropshipping is gonna force you to learn things that whether or not this dropshipping business works out for you, it's gonna parlay you and push you into something that will. How to set up a website, hosting, all the technical sides of setting a website, online marketing. How are you gonna get people to the store? SEO, paid ads, social media marketing, influencers. It's gonna force you to learn so much about the foundational elements of what it takes to be a successful online business that it's gonna force you down that path. So that's something I do love about dropshipping, is that there's a lot of elements involved in it. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, which we're gonna talk about, but just that alone, if it's your first business, it's worth doing because it's gonna force you down that path. I can't tell you how many businesses I failed at before I started finding some ones that started working for me. It's easy to look at somebody who has a track record of success and have some sort of imposter syndrome feeling about it, feeling like you'll never get there, but behind every person like that, there are a dozen failures, and they sat exactly where you are now. But you have the added benefit of being alive in 2024, 2025, where the internet is at your fingertips and there's so much information out there that you can get a head start, you can get fast, you can move much faster than when I first got started in this 15 years ago. There was nothing online about this stuff. I had to do it and figure it out for myself, and that took years. Now there's so much information online that you can get a really head start and you can sprint a lot faster. So it forces you into a situation where, you're gonna take action. So what are some of the challenges of dropshipping? First and foremost, profit margins. So I had mentioned for my shoelace store, the only way that I was gonna make a profit on that was buying in massive quantities, because economies of scale pricing is when you buy a lot, which then the supplier is gonna give you a very low price per unit. If you try and buy 20 t-shirts to start a t-shirt store, they're gonna charge you 30 bucks per t-shirt. How much are you gonna be able to charge for a t-shirt? But if you buy 3,000, 10,000, 1,000 t-shirts, you're getting for $3-5, and then you've got profit margin builds into it. With drop shipping, you don't have that benefit. With drop shipping, the worst part about it is I wanna say the amount of money you make, but the lack of money that you make with it, because you're a pass-through cost. You are literally almost like an affiliate for that brand, but you're hosting a lot more of the challenges on top of that. So the profit that you make on a sale is very, very, very low. It depends on what you're selling. It could be 5%, it could be 15%. It depends on what you're selling, but essentially, you don't have a lot of money to work with on this business. Now, the flip side of the coin is you don't have a lot of costs associated with it, which we'll talk about in a second, aside from marketing costs, but there's not a lot of profit that's built into it. So the amount of volume that you have to do in order to make money on this, real money, is significant. And in today's internet, that's extremely challenging. So another big thing is the lack of control over inventory. So you are beholden to the supplier. And if the supplier isn't doing a good job of managing their inventory, if they're not keeping their systems up to date, you could be selling products on your website that are out of date or out of stock on their website. So you're beholden to the supplier. If you do want to get into drop shipping, you have to make sure to vet suppliers. You have to make sure that they're quality suppliers and that they have a good drop shipping program, because otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of money trying to acquire customers that ultimately are never going to end up selling through. And it's going to lead to a lot of headaches for you, customer order issues, brand degradation, and which ties into one of my other points on here, which is you can not build a brand when you're drop shipping because you don't have control of the product. And that to me is probably the worst thing about all of this, is that companies are built no matter what. If it's a service business, if it's a product business, if it's a software business, if it's a cannabis business, they are built on the quality of their product. Product-led marketing, product-led companies, especially in today's internet-driven, TikTok-driven, easily agitated internet where people will go online and say things and leave bad reviews. If you don't have control over your product, if you're not continuously optimizing and building better and better products for customers, if you don't have a business, you have a way to make money. That's really what this comes down to. Dropshipping is not a business model, it's a hustle. And if you were to go back historically in dropshipping, Gymshark, which is a billion-dollar company, actually started as a dropshipping company, funny or not, but that was 10 years ago. And that was because the founder just didn't have the money for inventory, so he made a little money doing dropshipping products until he was able to invest and then turn into a business. So the founder of Gymshark would probably be the first to tell you that dropshipping was a good way for him to make money at that time, to invest into his own products, because ultimately Gymshark wouldn't be where it's at by just dropshipping Hanes teas that are available anywhere on the internet. Like, you have to be able to build a brand, and brands are built off the quality of your product. If you don't have control over that, if you're not able to differentiate yourself, because keep in mind, you're not going to be the only person dropshipping that product. I actually was doing research on this, and one of the things that I came across with this was this knife company, and they built their business off of dropshippers. But we'll talk about marketing in a second, but because of the way that marketing has shifted, that knife company is now out of business because those dropshippers were all just pushing the exact same messaging. Essentially, it was just the same thing over and over again. They ended up losing those dropshippers, which ended up caving their business because they had no way to generate income anymore, because their product was whatever. They struck gold in the beginning by getting a lot of people dropshipping their product and doing the marketing on their behalf. But ultimately, those dropshippers failed because they were selling something that was commoditized, and it's the exact same thing. And if you can't differentiate your product, if you can't build a brand around it, if there's no angles, if there's no benefit or values to that product, it's ultimately going to fail. So if you can't differentiate, if you can't build a brand, again, you don't have a business, you have a hustle. And there's nothing wrong with that when you're first getting started, but the ultimate goal here is to build something that runs without you, build something sustainable, and that's a business. And a business is very different than just making money. So shipping complications are another thing here. The retailer relies on third-party suppliers. It becomes a mess, it becomes a headache, and again, you don't have any control over this, which is the challenging part, because it's not your business, it's not your product. So all these things are outside of your control: quality control, shipping, logistics, inventory, product differentiation, product upgrades. These things are all outside of your control. You're essentially literally just a marketing partner that sits on top of that, and you're beholden to that company. If it's not a great company, and even if it is, again, you're still selling something that is not differentiated. So the final thing here about the challenges, and if you're gonna listen to me about anything here, listen to me on this. I am a marketer through and through. I've been doing marketing for 15 years. I've worked with Target, I've worked with Best Buy, I've worked with startups, I've built my own companies, I've sold my own companies. I have 2 agencies right now. We have over 100 clients on our roster. I know marketing. If you can't market this, you have nothing. That's all day. Like, everything that I just listed from a challenge point of view, you don't have a business, you have a product that you can help sell. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, if you're really good on social, you got a big social media following, then yeah, you can drop ship some products, or you can become an affiliate. If you have an existing audience, then drop shipping could be a good fit for you. I would still push you to develop your own product and services because you're gonna make more on it. But ultimately, if you have an existing baked in audience, then yes, drop shipping could be a good fit for you. If you don't, it's gonna fail. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about the marketing tactics that you could use to drive traffic and sales through a drop shipping store. Social media. But like I said, if you don't have an existing following, it's really hard to build a following around a product that you don't own, around a product that you can't differentiate. Now, you could make the argument, well, if it's really good knives, then I could build a channel about like cutting stuff. Of course you could, if you're really good at building viral videos. How many of you out there have built viral videos before? Raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. Maybe you have, I don't know. But again, it's just like, you have to be able to strike gold in terms of the product aligning with what it is that you can build from a content, social point of view to get it to go viral. And if you've got an existing following, are you really gonna hawk somebody else's product you're following when you have no control over it? You have no control over the quality of it. You have no control over all this stuff. I've worked with influencers before. My wife's best friend is actually an influencer with 4 million followers. And we tried doing different things with affiliate. We tried doing different things with different products, but ultimately she wasn't in control of them, and she was getting a lot of complaints from her followers, and she was ultimately like, I can't do this. Like, I'm burning out my audience. I'm selling them crap. It's not worth the money. So if you have an existing following, you have to be very conscious of what you're selling to them, because you don't want to burn them out and lose them in the long run. Okay, so that's social media. If you can build viral content around it, yeah, you got a shot to sell it. But it's also not sustainable because those viral videos decay pretty quickly. So you got to be getting more and more viral videos going. Option 2 would be paid ads. So show TikTok ads, Facebook ads, Google ads. Challenge with that is just it's the profit margin. So think about it this way. Let's say you're selling a $100 product, and let's say your cut is 10%. That means for every product you're selling, you're making $10. So you have to be able to sell that product for less than $10 with ads. That's really hard to do. Unless you're an ads expert. I'm an ads expert. I have a whole team of media buyers. It's really, really hard as it is because of the rising costs of advertising, because it's very competitive, it's very congested, it's very commoditized. It's really, really hard to hit that number in terms of profit, the lower that it gets. Now, if you're selling something that's like a refrigerator that's like $5,000, you got more margin to work with. That's something that you can do. But again, how are you going to differentiate? You don't own that product. What type of content for the ads are you going to create if you don't have the physical product you can make ads with? It's really, really hard to run ads without content and creative, because that's ultimately the engine that drives those ads. So ads are really tough. The final piece is going to be organic marketing. So like influencers, it's going to cost you too much money. PR, it's not your product. You're not going to be able to get coverage, which leaves SEO. And this is really where the final straw to me has really fallen and broken the camel's back on dropshipping, because again, of all things marketing, SEO is what I do. It's what I've done for a very long time. Google doesn't want to rank your dropshipping website. They don't want to show, if somebody's Googling that knife product, they're Googling that knife. They don't want to show 10 websites that are all selling the same thing. That's not the original brand's website. That original brand's website is always going to rank better than yours, always, no matter what. If you are not the owner of those products, Google hates affiliates. They don't want to show it. Google does not want to show low quality dropshipping. Frankly, that product is everywhere on the internet. They want to show the original source. They want to show the brand. Google does not like small websites, especially in today's algorithm. It's going to be really, 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 really hard for you to rank your website. And again, if you are not already an SEO expert, like if you're an SEO expert with tons of experience, you built and ranked e-commerce websites before, go for it, knock yourself out. It's very low cost to get this stuff set up. Low effort, I should say, not low cost. But what it takes to rank a website, there are hard costs associated with it. There's content development. You need a lot of content on your website, product pages, supporting content, blog content. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars in content marketing costs unless you're going to write it all yourself. You can't use AI. Google does not want to rank that. It's going to cost you a lot of content fees. Link building fees. Link building is the process of getting other websites to talk about your website. If you think about like Huffington Post writing an article about the 10 best knife companies, they include a link to your website in there. That link is still one of the top ranked factors in Google. It shows you that your website is popular, that you're being mentioned on Huffington Post. Therefore, yeah, you're worthy of being ranked and getting visibility in Google. The process of getting those links is extremely time consuming and expensive. You don't get onto those websites for free. You need a PR company, you need to have relationships, you need to pay, you need to build content. So we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in SEO costs without agencies, and that's if you know what you're doing to get this ranked. Now, again, if you're an SEO expert, you got the money to do it, you got the right product, yeah, absolutely, dropshipping can work. Which kind of brings me to my final point here. Is it still worth it? Should you start a dropshipping business? I wouldn't, no. And let me break this down for you. If you're a beginner, I would not, no. There are other better business models that you can get into that you'll still get that added benefit of learning, like setting up your own e-commerce store where you own the product, you go through the process of developing inventory, you go through the process of managing a full business end to end. I would push you to do that before. It's still really hard to do e-commerce, but at least the margin's better and you're gonna make more in your sales and you're selling your own product. You have control of the product. If you're an expert, if you're an SEO expert, a paid ads expert, would I do dropshipping? No, I would not. I would do something else. Why? Because why would I put in all that effort to make 10 cents on the dollar when I could make the full dollar? Yes, it's gonna take more effort to get the product set up. Yes, it's gonna take more effort to develop the service or whatever it is I'm selling. But ultimately, what you learn in this game when you've been in it for a while is that we all have the same 24 hours and pretty much every business comes with the same level of headache. Like people look at dropshipping and affiliate, they're like, oh, I want a hands-free automated business. Like there's no such thing, dude. There's absolutely no such thing, because you're gonna have to spend so much effort. Where you're saving time and effort and money is on the front end in terms of the product development and the product costs, but you have to pick up so much effort on the back end from a marketing point of view that you're never gonna make up that ground. You're just not going to. And again, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. If you're gonna spend that time doing something, spend time something that's gonna build equity into the future. Build a business. Stop building hustles. Stop just trying to make some money. I get it if you're just getting started, but take it from me. I'm giving you advice from future you. This is gonna be you in 15 years. Don't waste your time doing something that's not sustainable. For what? It's gonna take you the exact same amount of time to build something that is sustainable, that's gonna provide fruit for you in the future that you can build on, that has equity, that has standing power, that you can actually build into a business. A business is the only thing that you can actually pull yourself out of. There are no online hustles anymore that you can pull yourself out of and go sit on the beach. I don't care what those dickheads are telling you in those ads. It does not happen. It does not exist. There's so much effort that goes into it. And then once you get it to a point where it's making money, you can't stop a dropshipping business. You have to keep pushing it. You have to keep marketing it. If you have a business, today's Friday morning and I'm here filming videos because I have a team, I have people that's managing my business, because a business has equity, has staying power. And that's when you can actually pull yourself out. So you got to put in the time and put in the effort. But if you're going to do it, which I applaud you for doing because you're here, do something that's actually worth it. Build a business, don't build a hustle. So that's all I got for this video. As always, if you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.